What if the person you loved the most was someone you were never meant to love? What if your deepest desire was also your greatest shame? Two cousins, raised under the same roof, shared a bond so deep it crossed forbidden lines. But when their secret was exposed, their world came crashing down. Betrayal, heartbreak, and the weight of family disgrace. Was their love worth the price? Stay with us as we unravel the shocking truth behind a love that was never meant to be. Michael and Vanessa had been inseparable since childhood. Born just months apart, they had grown up under the same roof, their bond as cousins feeling more like that of siblings. They spent endless afternoons chasing each other through the backyard, whispering secrets under the old mango tree, and sneaking into the kitchen late at night for stolen treats. Their families always joked that they were two halves of the same soul, destined to look out for each other forever. But as the years passed, something unspoken began to shift between them. It started subtly, an accidental brush of hands that lingered too long, a heartbeat that quickened during an embrace that once felt innocent. At first, they ignored it, dismissing the unfamiliar tension as a trick of the mind. But no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't shake the growing awareness of each other. One evening, as they sat on the veranda watching the sunset, Michael caught Vanessa's gaze and held it for a second too long. There was something in her eyes, curiosity, hesitation, and something deeper he couldn't name. She quickly looked away, laughing at something trivial. But the moment had already planted a seed of confusion in both their hearts. Neither of them wanted to admit it, but a line had been crossed. Their childhood innocence was slipping away, replaced by something more dangerous, something forbidden. The air between them had changed. It was an unspoken tension, a quiet storm brewing beneath every interaction. They tried to pretend nothing was different, to laugh, to talk, to exist as they always had, but the weight of their feelings was undeniable. The turning point came during a family gathering, one of those loud, cheerful events where uncles argued over politics and children ran wild between tables. Michael and Vanessa found themselves alone in the dimly lit hallway, away from the chaos. She had been searching for something in her room, and he had followed instinctively, as he always did. But this time, it felt different. She turned to face him, her breath slightly unsteady. "Michael, do you feel?" She never got to finish. Maybe it was the way the dim light softened her features, or the way her lips parted ever so slightly, as if inviting the very thing they both feared. Before he could stop himself, he leaned in and she didn't pull away. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, hesitant. Then it deepened, fueled by years of suppressed emotions. 1,000 unspoken words passed between them in that fleeting moment. But just as quickly as it began, reality crashed down on them. Vanessa pulled back, her eyes wide with shock. "Michael, what did we just do?" He didn't have an answer. Guilt swirled in his chest, but so did something else, something terrifyingly irresistible. They had just made the first mistake, and deep down, they both knew it wouldn't be the last. After that night, nothing was the same. Michael and Vanessa tried to go back to how things were before, but the invisible line between them had already been crossed. Every touch, every shared glance, every word carried a weight neither of them could ignore. They told themselves it was just a mistake, a moment of weakness. But if that were true, why did their hearts race whenever they were near each other? Why did their minds replay that forbidden kiss over and over again? At family gatherings, they acted normal, laughing, joking, pretending. But beneath the surface, tension crackled like fire waiting to ignite. A simple brush of fingers as they passed each other sent sparks through their veins. A lingering glance across the room felt like a silent confession. Soon, pretending wasn't enough. The pull between them was undeniable, suffocating. They found themselves seeking moments alone. Stolen seconds in dark corners, brief touches that sent shivers down their spines. One night, Michael waited in the garden behind the house, heart pounding as he checked his phone for the 100th time. A few minutes later, Vanessa appeared, her figure barely visible in the moonlight. "This is wrong," she whispered, but she didn't step back. I know, Michael said, his voice thick with longing. Then why can't we stop? Neither had an answer. And as she stepped closer, as their fingers intertwined, they both realized the truth. They didn't want to stop. No matter how much they fought it, the desire between them grew stronger. What had once been an innocent bond between cousins had transformed into something deeper, something forbidden. Michael and Vanessa knew the risks, but logic meant nothing when they were together. They found new ways to steal moments. Alone late night, walks when the house was asleep, whispered phone calls that stretched until dawn, fingers brushing under the dinner table when no one was looking. Each time they parted, guilt clung to them like a shadow, but the moment they were in each other's arms again, the guilt melted into pure longing. One evening, as the rain drummed against the rooftop, Michael slipped into Vanessa's room. She was sitting by the window, lost in thought. The dim glow of her bedside lamp cast a golden hue over her face, making her look more beautiful than he had ever seen. "We can't keep doing this," she murmured, though she made no move to push him away. Michael exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "I know, but tell me, do you really want me to stop?" Silence stretched between them. Then, slowly, Vanessa shook her head. No, that was all the permission he needed. In that moment, their love eclipsed every warning, every consequence. Their lips met again, this time with no hesitation, no doubt. It wasn't just desire, it was something deeper, something neither of them could explain. Outside, the storm raged on, as if nature itself was warning them. But inside, in each other's arms, they had never felt more at peace. Secrets, no matter how carefully guarded, always find a way to slip through the cracks. At first, Michael and Vanessa believed they were careful meeting only when no one was around, exchanging glances that lasted only seconds, keeping their emotions buried beneath layers of normalcy. But love, especially forbidden love, has a way of making people reckless. It started with little things, the way they looked at each other when they thought no one was watching, the sudden tension when they were in the same room, the way Vanessa blushed too easily whenever Michael spoke. It wasn't long before the family began to notice. Aunt Ifema was the first to voice her suspicions. "Have you noticed how close those two have become?" She murmured one evening to Vanessa's mother. "It's not normal." Her mother waved it off with a laugh. They've always been close. They practically grew up as siblings. But the seed of doubt had been planted. Soon, others began watching more closely. Uncles, aunts, cousins, everyone started paying attention to the subtle but undeniable connection between Michael and Vanessa. Then came the whispers. Conversations would hush when they entered a room. Side glances and knowing smirks followed them wherever they went. At first, they assumed it was paranoia, but then they overheard snippets of conversations. They spend too much time together. "Did you see the way he looked at her? It's not natural." The walls were closing in, and they knew it. One wrong move, one careless mistake, and their secret would no longer be theirs to keep. One evening, as they sat in the back garden under the cover of darkness, Vanessa clutched Michael's hand, her voice shaking. "They're starting to suspect." Michael swallowed hard, squeezing her fingers. "Then we have to be even more careful." But deep down, they both knew the truth time was running out. Secrets may whisper behind closed doors, but the truth always finds a way to scream. Michael and Vanessa had been careful, or so they thought. Every stolen glance, every fleeting touch had been masked with the precision of two people living on the edge of exposure. But love makes people reckless, and recklessness breeds mistakes. That mistake came on an ordinary evening. The family had gathered for dinner, filling the house with the comforting aroma of jollof rice and grilled chicken. Laughter and conversation flowed freely, but Michael and Vanessa were restless, aware of each other's presence in ways they shouldn't have been. Vanessa's phone vibrated in her lap. She glanced down. Michael had sent her a message. "Meet me in the study after dinner. I need to see you." She swallowed hard, her pulse quickening. She knew it was dangerous, but she couldn't resist. Later that night, when the house had settled into its usual post-dinner calm, Vanessa slipped away. She found Michael waiting in the dimly lit study, his arms crossed, eyes dark with longing. "We can't keep meeting like this," she whispered. "I know," he admitted, stepping closer, "but I can't stay away from you." The words barely left his lips before she was in his arms, their kiss deep, urgent, two souls clinging to each other in a storm they knew would soon consume them. And then it happened. The door swung open with a force that made them jolt apart. Gasps filled the room. Standing at the entrance was Vanessa's mother, her face frozen in a mask of horror. Behind her, Aunt Ifeoma clutched her chest, as if the very sight of them was enough to steal the breath from her lungs. The silence was deafening. The weight of the moment crushed them. Vanessa's mother took a slow, shaky step forward. What have you done?" she whispered, her voice laced with disbelief and fury. There was no escape. No lie could undo what they had been caught doing. The secret was no longer theirs to keep. It had exploded into reality, and there was no going back. The moment felt frozen in time, yet everything around them moved in a blur. Vanessa's mother clutched the doorframe as if she needed support, her breathing uneven. Aunt Ifeoma's lips trembled, her shock quickly morphing into disgust. Michael and Vanessa stood motionless, their hands still lingering too close, their faces betraying their shame and fear. No words could undo what had just happened. "What is this?" Vanessa's mother's voice cracked with rage. "Tell me I did not just see what I think I saw." Vanessa opened her mouth, but no words came out. What could she say? That she loved Michael, that she hadn't meant for this to happen, that it was beyond her control. No excuse would be enough. "You two are cousins." Aunt Ifeoma spat, her face twisted in fury. "This is an abomination. Have you lost your minds?" Michael took a step forward. "Auntie, please, just listen." "Listen?" Vanessa's mother cut him off, her eyes burning with betrayal. "Do you have any idea what you've done? Do you know what this means for our family?" Tears welled up in Vanessa's eyes. "Mama, please, don't you dare call me that right now." Her mother snapped. You have disgraced me. Both of you have brought shame to this family." The walls seemed to close in. The house that had once been their home now felt suffocating. The weight of their choices crushed them under the furious stares of the women who had raised them. "I want you out," Vanessa's mother finally said, her voice cold as steel. "Both of you, before your fathers find out. Because if they do," she shook her head, her body trembling with fury, "there will be no saving you." Vanessa's heart shattered. Michael's jaw tightened. They had always known their love was forbidden, but they had never imagined it would lead to this. Now they had to face the storm they had unleashed, and there was no telling how much destruction it would leave behind. The night felt heavier than ever as Vanessa and Michael stood outside, bags hastily packed, their breaths uneven. The air was thick with tension, the echoes of their disgrace still ringing in their ears. Their mothers had given them no choice: leave now, or face the wrath of the entire family. Vanessa wiped her tear-streaked face as she turned to Michael. "Where will we go?" Her voice was barely above a whisper. Michael exhaled. "I don't know, but I won't leave you alone in this." For the first time since they had been caught, Vanessa let out a sob. "They hate us. Michael, my mother, she looked at me like I was nothing." He pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. "We knew this would happen," he murmured, "but we'll find a way through it. I promise." The front door slammed behind them, making them jump. Aunt Ifeoma stood in the doorway, her eyes burning with disgust. "Leave, and don't come back until you've cleansed yourselves of this shame." She spat before slamming the door shut once more. Michael took Vanessa's hand, squeezing it tightly as they walked away from the only home they had ever known. The streets felt emptier, colder, as if the world itself had turned against them. They found a cheap motel on the outskirts of town, barely speaking as they settled in. The silence between them was deafening. What had once been thrilling, passionate, and uncontrollable was now a burden too heavy to carry. Vanessa sat on the edge of the bed, her voice breaking. Did we make a mistake? Michael hesitated. For the first time, doubt clawed at him. I don't know, he admitted, but I know I love you. That hasn't changed. She looked at him, searching for reassurance, for hope, but deep down, they both knew love alone might not be enough to save them from what they had done. Days turned into weeks, and the weight of their choices became heavier with each passing moment. The motel room that had once felt like a temporary escape now felt like a prison. Vanessa barely ate, barely spoke. Michael tried to stay strong for both of them, but he felt himself slipping too. They had lost everything: their home, their family, their sense of belonging. And for what? A love that now felt more like a curse than a blessing. One evening, as rain drizzled outside, Vanessa sat by the window, her fingers tracing invisible patterns on the glass. Michael, she whispered, her voice distant. He turned from where he sat on the bed. Yeah. She swallowed hard, then turned to face him. Maybe we should go back. Maybe we should try to fix this. Michael's expression darkened. You really think they'll forgive us? They didn't just send us away, Vanessa. They disowned us. Tears welled up in her eyes. I don't care, Michael. I miss my mother. I miss my family. I can't live like this anymore. His chest tightened. He had always known this moment would come. That no matter how much they loved each other, the weight of their actions would eventually break one of them. So, what are you saying? He asked, his voice unsteady. She hesitated, looking at him with pain in her eyes. I'm saying, I don't know if I can do this anymore. The words hit him harder than he expected. He stood up, running a hand through his hair. You're leaving me. I don't know what else to do, she sobbed. I love you, Michael, but love isn't enough. We can't keep running forever. A heavy silence filled the room. Michael felt something inside him crack. He had fought so hard for them. But maybe Vanessa was right. Maybe there was no future for them. He exhaled sharply. If you want to go back, then go. Vanessa's heart shattered at his words. She had hoped he would fight for her, convince her to stay. But instead, he was letting her go, tears streaming down her face. She stood up, grabbed her bag, and walked toward the door. She paused, her hand on the handle. I'm sorry, she whispered, and then she was gone. Michael sat motionless on the bed long after Vanessa had walked out. The silence in the room was deafening, pressing down on him like a weight he couldn't shake. She was gone. The one person he had risked everything for had left, slipping through his fingers like sand. He had known this day would come, but he hadn't expected it to hurt this much. His mind replayed their last conversation over and over, torturing him with the truth love hadn't been enough to keep them together. Vanessa, on the other hand, walked aimlessly through the streets, her vision blurred by tears. She had nowhere to go, yet she kept moving. Her mother's face flashed in her mind, the disgust in her eyes, the disappointment. Could she ever be forgiven? Could she ever forgive herself? By the time she reached home, her hands were trembling. She stood outside the gate, her heart pounding. Would they even let her in? She knocked hesitantly. The door creaked open, revealing her mother. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. Then, before Vanessa could speak, her mother stepped forward and slapped her across the face. The pain stung, but it wasn't just physical. It was the weight of everything she had done, everything she had lost. You have disgraced me, her mother whispered, her voice laced with pain. Do you know what people have been saying? Do you know how much shame you have brought upon this family? Vanessa swallowed back her sobs. Mama, get inside. Her mother cut her off. We will talk in the morning. But hear me now, what you did should never happen again. Meanwhile, back at the motel, Michael sat alone, staring at his phone. A part of him wanted to call Vanessa to beg her to come back, but he knew she wouldn't. This was their ending. Their love had burned to bright, to fast, and in the end, it had consumed them both. Love is powerful, but so are the consequences of forbidden love. Michael and Vanessa thought their hearts could defy the rules. But in the end, they were forced to face a painful reality. What would you have done in their situation? Do you believe love should have limits, or should the heart decide, no matter the cost? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this story and want more gripping tales like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an episode of our most intriguing stories. See you in the next one. I hope you all